Justin's latest claim? That there was an alleged confrontation between him and Blake's husband, Ryan Reynolds, where Ryan, quote, launched into a tirade and accused Justin of fat-shaming Blake in an encounter he calls traumatic.
I know this gets overused now, but she did FAFO. Like, she thought she could blame all of her negative press on him. He's a weakling. She's Blake Lively with Ryan Reynolds, her dragon. And she decided, I can't take 1 month worth of negative press, which she got, generated, she says, by him. He says, by you and your badness. And she's so thin-skinned, look what happens to you. Look what happened to poor Jay Cal even on this show. People get picked on when they're in the public.
The Hollywood drama Between It Ends With Us co-stars Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni has officially reached a boiling point. The latest twist? Justin claims Blake's husband, Ryan Reynolds, confronted him in a heated tirade, accusing him of fat-shaming Blake in what Justin calls a traumatic encounter. Blake, backed by Ryan, seems determined to shift the blame for her recent wave of negative press onto Justin. Now, the legal battle is escalating, with Blake's team filing a subpoena for 2.5 years' worth of Justin's phone records, texts, data logs, and location history. Her attorneys vow to expose the tactics used to damage her reputation, while Justin's lawyer dismisses it as a massive fishing expedition.
Blake's team is on the hunt for receipts and has filed a subpoena seeking every single one of Justin's phone calls, text messages, data logs, and real-time location information over the past 2.5 years. Her attorneys tell ET they will, quote, expose the people, tactics, and methods that have worked to destroy and bury her reputation.
Yeah, it's pretty common. Usually one side will ask for whatever they can, but there will be pushback. And those requests typically get limited or restricted in some way.
Justin's lawyer calls the move a, quote, massive fishing expedition. In the midst of this court battle, It Ends With Us author Colleen Hoover has quietly reactivated her Instagram account after 3 weeks, but she deleted all of her posts featuring Justin or Blake.
I take no credit for that.
Action!
And after Blake was accused of turning the cast against Justin, yet another newly resurfaced interview is coming back to haunt her.
Because she oversteps her boundaries a bit.
In a 2009 interview with Glamour, the Gossip Girl star says when Penn Badgley was cast as her love interest, quote, I was so upset that they hired him, I actually poisoned the whole cast against him.
Wow.
What?
Blake says it took around a week before she realized he wasn't a jerk. The two went on to date for around 3 years.
Don't be mad.
No, I'm not mad.
Meanwhile, It Ends With Us author Colleen Hoover has quietly reactivated her Instagram after a 3-week break, deleting all posts featuring either Blake or Justin. With new evidence surfacing, some are calling this the next Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard showdown. As the feud between It Ends With Us co-stars Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni intensifies, past interviews are coming back to haunt Blake. A resurfaced 2009 Glamour interview reveals Blake admitting she once turned the Gossip Girl cast against Penn Badgley when he was first hired as her love interest. She later realized he wasn't a jerk, and the two went on to date for 3 years.
Baldoni case we want to talk about right now. First up, Blake Lively's team is indicating they are going on the offensive. And remember, she was the one who first started all this, right? So she filed her initial civil rights complaint with the California Civil Rights Department that matured into then a federal lawsuit, and she has sued Baldoni, his production company Wayfair Studios, and other executives and team members, alleging that Baldoni, her co-star, director of the film It Ends With Us, sexually harassed her and created a hostile work environment on that set, and then proceeded to launch a smear campaign against her in the media and online to destroy her reputation. Now, he countersued, and he filed a suit against not only her, but her husband Ryan Reynolds as well, and argued that she destroyed his reputation, that she did that with false allegations that she weaponized against him, that she coordinated all this with the New York Times to publish these alleged false allegations in a piece about him, that she ultimately took control over all aspects of the film, boxed him out, and then he claims that he hired a crisis management team to not go on the offensive against Blake Lively to damage her reputation, but rather the defensive to prepare if she made claims against him. And by the way, he also sued the New York Times as well for defamation. So there is a lot going on here, a lot of what's been happening, but that is the basic gist. Now, Baldoni has spent a considerable amount of time and effort seemingly litigating this case in the public, right? His attorney, Brian Friedman, doing a number of interviews allegedly releasing behind-the-scenes footage of a dancing scene in an effort to prove that Justin Baldoni, his client, wasn't acting inappropriately, launching a website that featured never-before-seen text messages between Baldoni and Lively and Baldoni and Ryan Reynolds. The website also featured a timeline of events according to Baldoni, a newly filed amended complaint. By the way, as you know, we have been trying to cover all of the big updates in the Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively story. This fight has been made quite public, and I've said it before, I'll say it again. It seems that this fight is equally as important for the public, the court of public opinion, as it is in a courtroom. Now, Blake Lively is fighting back. So according to Deadline, her legal team sent out a bunch of subpoenas to companies like AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, AOL, Cloudflare Inc., as well as one of the people that she accused of being complicit in this alleged smear campaign against her, Jed Wallace, a Christ.
While some speculate this is just a PR stunt, insiders suggest a far darker reality. Blake's team is now on the offensive, escalating her initial civil rights complaint into a federal lawsuit. She has accused Baldoni, his production company Wayfarer Studios, and others of sexual harassment, fostering a hostile work environment, and launching a smear campaign against her. In response, Justin has countersued, not just against Blake, but also her husband, Ryan Reynolds, alleging that she is responsible for destroying his reputation. With both sides locked in legal warfare, this Hollywood battle is far from over.
Spend a minute on Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively, okay? I know the ruthless fellas have been all up in this business. And, I mean, no, but seriously, have you followed it at all?
A little bit. I mean, it's all over the tabloids, so you got to see it a little bit. I don't know if you're an
all
expert,
over the tabloids.
yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so for those of you, just a quick two-liner for those of you not following it. They started this movie, It Ends With Us, about domestic violence. It was his movie that he bought the rights for from the woman who wrote the book, Colleen Hoover. Then he managed to convince Blake Lively to star in it with him, and all hell broke loose. She claims he sexual harassed her, and then by the time they premiered the movie, they weren't even speaking to each other. She made him stay in the basement, and Ryan Reynolds turned on him too. And then she claimed that he unleashed a bad PR campaign against her, and he claims none of that is true. There was absolutely no harassment. Those are made up claims. She wrested his movie away from him and decided to try to hurt him with petty, made up, out of context complaints when he pushed back even in the mildest way, and that she and her husband are bullies. And now it's resulted in vicious cross litigations against both of them. The New York Times is being sued for defamation by Baldoni through his lawyer, Brian Friedman, who's also my attorney, who's been on the show. And it's as vicious as it can get in Hollywood. My own position is she's absolutely ruined her brand. She has started a fight she cannot win. She does appear like an Amber Heard to me. I have yet to see one of her complaints borne out. In fact, all of the ones I've seen have been undermined by his hardcore proof in text messaging and so on that puts a totally different light on her horrific allegations. Then you see what she actually said and wrote. It's very different. She called herself Khaleesi and said Ryan Reynolds and we believe Taylor Swift were her dragons. And she's got the best dragons because they'll fight on behalf of her friends too. Now she and Taylor are reportedly on the outs because Taylor Swift is like, bitch, I'm nobody's dragon. That's unconfirmed, but it's out there. And today we see some evidence now that Blake Lively may have a history of not being upfront when she gets cast in a movie of her secret desires to actually play a much bigger role than that of lead actress. Here she is at the 2022 Forbes Power Women's Summit.
I would show up on a set. I knew that they just wanted me to show up and look cute and stand on a little pink sticker where I'm supposed to go and say what I'm supposed to say. But I also knew that that wasn't fulfilling for me, that I wanted to be a part of the storytelling, that I wanted to be a part of the narrative, whether that be in the writing, in the costume design, in creating the character. And sometimes I had directors or producers or writers who would welcome that and invite that once they saw that I was able to offer that. And sometimes I would have people who really resented that because they were like, we just hired you to be an actor. Yet when I went in the meetings, I would just seem like I'm just there to be the actor and ready to get the gig. I wouldn't reveal that I actually need to have authorship in order to feel fulfilled. So I think that for them, sometimes that might have felt like a rug pull because you're like, you're trying to assert yourself into something that we didn't hire you to do.
So she's a serial fraudster. That's called fraud. When you pretend you want to do the one thing and you'll do the thing they're hiring you for, but all along you have secret plans to do something very, very different that's above your pay grade. And she finally bumped into someone who was weak enough and not famous enough to stop her, right? This Justin Baldoni, most people had never even heard of him. He'd been in like one series. He certainly wasn't at Ryan Reynolds level fame, never mind Blake Lively. And she bullied him into giving her the movie where she did her own cut. They released the cut of the movie. He didn't even get to see it. He was the director of the film, the producer of the film, the guy who got the rights to the film, the one who's supposed to be in control. He didn't even get to see it. He was in the basement at his own movie premiere. And then she had the nerve, because she had 2 minutes of bad publicity when the film hit, to come out and try to blame it all on him. None of it was just due to the fact that she seems like a rather shitty person. Your thoughts?
I mean, it's wild. She just pretty much said the whole problem here. It's like, if you hire the plumber and he climbs out from under the sink and says, "Now let's talk about how you've decorated the place." Like, what are you talking about, man? I gave you a job.
How dare they hire an actor to act? You know,
right?
Deal with a little.
And
bit
she tries to make it sound like a female empowerment thing. You know, like they just wanted me to be an actor. Well, yes. I mean, maybe someday you could be a producer or a screenwriter, but no one contracted with you to do that here. And that's another allegation, Holmes, is that she started to rewrite scenes that nobody had asked her to rewrite.
That's just wild to me. I mean, the plumber thing is absolutely perfect. I mean, you hired somebody to do a job and they're like, well, hold on a second. I've got a different vision for your toilet.
Right.
I'd like to create a bidet.
Here's the other piece of it. One other piece of it. So she is accused of having turned the whole cast of It Ends With Us against Justin. By the time they premiered the movie, Ryan Reynolds had unfollowed him on Insta, so had Blake, so had the rest of the cast. Now you tell me, if you're an unknown actor in this film and you know that Blake and Ryan have turned on the no-name Justin Baldoni, who are you?
The legal war between It Ends With Us co-stars Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni is only getting messier. Baldoni now claims Blake not only weaponized false allegations against him, but also worked with the New York Times to publish a damaging piece that she allegedly controlled. He argues she ultimately took over the film, sidelined him, and forced him to hire a crisis management team, not to attack her but to defend himself against potential accusations. In response, Baldoni has sued the New York Times for defamation. Meanwhile, his legal team, led by Brian Friedman, has been actively fighting the case in the public eye, releasing behind-the-scenes footage
that may have sparked the multi-million-dollar It Ends With Us battle. Justin Baldoni unleashing the never-before-seen image on his explosive new website. Inside, he claims Blake skipped out on a meeting with an intimacy coordinator before filming, telling him, "I feel good. I can meet her when we start. Thank you, though."
And then let's just do one almost like super close.
Yeah. Justin, who has also released behind-the-scenes footage from the movie, claims that Blake instead insisted that he meet to read her his notes from the coordinator at her New York penthouse home. Those included explicit conversations about their sex scenes, including references to foreplay.
It's a big problem. It's a really big problem.
Justin says those notes became the basis for her lawsuit, where she alleged inappropriate behavior. As for claims in Blake's lawsuit that he fat-shamed her after the birth of her fourth baby, Justin included this text message he says that he sent Blake. It tells her, "You will look amazing. Anything you are insecure about, we will talk through and get creative together and make you comfortable. I just don't want you to stress about your body." But Justin's lawsuit goes beyond sex, alleged lies, and video and audio tape.
I'm sorry I made you feel that way. That must have felt terrible. And I will for sure do better.
Money spent during filming is also now an issue.
Oh, here it goes.
Baldoni claims the wardrobe budget for the film ballooned by nearly $500,000, claiming she paid no heed to budget constraints.
You do so much storytelling through fashion, and tonight is no exception. Can I get a little story behind this?
Blake, who put on a one-woman fashion show as she promoted the movie around the globe.
This is Britney's Versace dress, 2002, the butterfly dress.
Had not addressed Justin's new claims by our deadline. The two sides are not only fighting their battle in court, but also the court of public opinion. The sequel to Blake's 2018 film, A Simple Favor with Anna Kendrick, will not be shelved.
People do terrible things for their own reasons.
Instead, it's getting the featured spot opening next month's South by Southwest Film Festival in Austin, Texas. Justin is reportedly hosting two families who lost their homes in the wildfires at his $2.8 million Ojai, California home, while he and his family vacation in Hawaii. But his lawyer, Brian Friedman, told us Justin isn't done dropping new bombshells.
He's feeling like you would feel. If you were wrongfully accused of something, you'd feel pretty devastated. And he's looking for justice.
Launching a website featuring unseen texts between Baldoni, Lively, and Ryan Reynolds, and laying out a timeline of events to support his claims. With a newly filed amended complaint, the stakes continue to rise, making this one of Hollywood's most explosive legal showdowns yet. The battle between It Ends With Us co-stars Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni has become as much about public perception as it is about the courtroom. Blake's legal team is aggressively fighting back, issuing subpoenas to major companies like AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, and Cloudflare, along with Jed Wallace, a crisis management specialist she accuses of aiding a smear campaign against her. Meanwhile, veteran journalist and attorney Megyn Kelly has weighed in, calling out what she sees as manipulative industry tactics from Blake and Ryan Reynolds. She argues that Baldoni, who lacks their Hollywood power, is being subjected to workplace bullying. His careful, restrained responses in interviews have only fueled speculation that major industry players are working to silence him. With both legal and media battles raging, this feud is showing no signs of slowing down.